Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. How's everyone doing? As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. Now, today's show, we're going to be talking about Derek Chauvin and George Floyd. You know, Derek Chauvin is claiming that there is new evidence which shows that he wasn't responsible for the death of George Floyd. So I just wanted to look at this in sort of new evidence and give my thoughts about it. What is the strength of this evidence? Does it really carry that much weight enough for the conviction of Derek Chauvin to be overturned, or is this something that doesn't make any sense, right? Now I know that I suspect, or I know that today is Thanksgiving for Americans. So happy Thanksgiving to you, my American audience. Many of you may not be able to join the stream, but you'll catch it later on, so that's fine. Since I have some time on my hands, I decided to do this today, right? However, the number of people that are here. So, welcome to the stream. 2020 was a very quote unquote a very spicy year in the sense that following the death of George Floyd, there were lots of protests, right? Protests against police brutality, um, protests. Some were peaceful, some devolved into violence, destruction of properties. Even people lost their lives in those protests, right? So it was a sort of a I would say a spicy year, right? But the events that led to those protests, as we know, was the killing of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin. Some people would disagree on whether or not it was a killing. But when I first saw that video, I, I really felt it was an awful video, right? It was an awful video for you to just stay on someone's back or neck for that long, right? And with the person crying that, oh, I can't breathe, and the police not doing anything, the other officers they're not doing anything to intervene, and eventually George Floyd dying. Now, following that, and there was speculations. Okay, maybe this was a revenge because George Floyd and Derek Chauvin actually worked in a club. They they were like security in a club, so they definitely knew each other, which is strange. I mean, if you know someone, if you've worked with someone, how do you treat them that way? How do you treat them that inhumanely, right? I know that George Floyd was in the process of committing a crime or committed a crime in the sense that he passed a fake $20 bill to try to buy something. But this is someone you know. How do you treat them? So it just brings to question whether was there some sort of animosity between both of them? Was there bad blood between both of them for him to have acted that way towards George Floyd? I don't know. It's all speculation. You can never know what's going through someone's head or someone's mind. But I thought that was an overreach. I thought that it was unnecessary for him to have done that, seeing that George Floyd was already restrained. Now, on the other hand, there were those who sort of made George Floyd into a hero. There are statues of him and all the other things that, of course, is not a hero in any sense, in the sense that he did not do anything heroic. So about the most heroic thing was him dying at the hands of a cop, right? That's what happened. But the way he died was not a way to go. It wasn't a way to go. It wasn't a way to go at all. So those who thought it was, it's the kind of a situation where both sides have some point, both sides have some point. And I think that there were some positives that actually came out of it, right? Came out of the whole BLM, George Floyd protest and everything. If you remove all the carnage that happened, I think it actually moved along the conversation of police accountability. I mean, police should not have the right to do whatever they like. They can't just rough handle citizens. They can't just kill people. There's a due process, right? Some people would say, oh, George Floyd deserved to die. People like Candace Owens, who had no empathy, no sympathy for this man because he is a criminal or was a criminal. You know, the fact that there is a process to handle criminals itself shows that jungle justice or just killing people for the fact that they are criminals is not an okay thing to do. If it was an okay thing to do, then there would be no process. There would be no judicial process to handle such cases, right? You can just kill anyone, but that's not how. There is always the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So people who use the fact that George Floyd had a criminal history to sort of say that he deserved to die the way he did, I think that's just despicable. We can look at a man's actions and say, yeah, this person is a terrible person, but if there's anything that has to be done to this person, then let it be done the right way. Let it be done legally. And I think that the actions of Derek Chauvin did not allow that to happen, right? So, with all the autopsies and everything that came out, showed that George Floyd died from asphyxiation, right? So there was he couldn't breathe, right? His somehow, because of the pressure being applied to his chest and all that, he couldn't breathe and he died from that. I think there was also cardiopulmonary arrest and all that. So the thing is, you know, aside that, the autopsy also showed that George Floyd had fentanyl in the system, he had methamphetamine in the system, he had other comorbidities like hypertension, cardiomegaly, which means an enlarged heart, and so many other, he even had COVID at that time, right? So those things could have contributed to his death. There is no doubt about that. There's no doubt about the fact that with all those other things, even with the fentanyl and meth in the system, you know, putting him under that kind of situation would have led to his death, right? So Derek Chauvin was convicted based on all those evidence and all that. But now he's come out to say that although he pled guilty to the charge, now he's come out to say that he would not have pled guilty if he had known that George Floyd had other extenuating circumstances, right? And then so this is based on some quote unquote new evidence, right? And then you get to ask yourself, what exactly is this new evidence that he's talking about? So I'm just going to share an article which sort of tries to present what this new evidence is. And we're going to look at it and see how well this new evidence, how well it serves his case, right? So I think you can see my screen. Yep, you can see my screen. So says former police officer Derek Chauvin makes new bid to overturn conviction over the 2020 murder of George Floyd, claiming new evidence shows he didn't cause his death. Chauvin has asked a federal judge to throw out his 2021 conviction. In his federal case, Chauvin accepted a plea deal in which he admitted responsibility for the 2020 death of George Floyd. I mean, it was kind of obvious, right? It was kind of obvious because you were kneeling on this man's back for that long. For the fact that someone can speak, because there was this argument that, oh, if he couldn't breathe, then he could not have said anything. It's not true. For the fact that if you can't breathe, doesn't mean you can't say something, right? You can still actually talk, but your airways are compromised, right? So he's now attempting to present evidence that the cause of Floyd's death was an alternative medical reason that has not been previously explored. So former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin had filed a motion in federal court asking the judge who presided over his trial to toss his conviction and order a new trial. Right. In the motion filed Monday, Chauvin argues he never would have pleaded guilty to murdering George Floyd had he known about the theories of a cancer pathologist. So this is not based on this is just based on a theory, right? Theories are not facts. They're just, what people think likely happened, right? So there is a certain pathologist who has certain theories about what may have caused the death of George Floyd. So what exactly is this theory? The former cop says Dr. William Schatzo of Topeka believes that Floyd died not from asphyxia as a result of Chauvin's applied force, but from complications of a rare tumor called a paraganglioma that can cause a fatal surge of adrenaline. So this paraganglioma is sort of a tumor that can cause a fatal surge of adrenaline. The pathologist with whom Chauvin began communicating in February of this year did not examine Floyd's body, but did review autopsy reports. So he did not directly examine Floyd's body, but he looked at the autopsy reports, and then he came to this conclusion that Floyd must have died from this and not from the actions of Derek Chauvin. For me, I don't think this cuts it as enough evidence to show that died from, that complication. Because the reason why I would say this is that, yes, that's that sort of rare tumor can cause a it can cause a surge in adrenaline, which can lead to a heart attack and all those things, right? Flight and fight and flight hormone. But then you ask yourself, what exactly led to? Don't you think that is the sort of condition that this cop put Floyd in would have led him to have a sudden surge in adrenaline, right? Yes. Are we seriously saying that if George Floyd had not been put in that position by Derek Chauvin, that him just walking home, that he would have fallen dead? That without the intervention of Chauvin at any point, that George Floyd would have just fallen dead on his way home because this tumor decided to suddenly just kill him. He probably had this tumor for a while, he had other comorbidities. He probably would not have lived a very long life. But I'm very, very certain that George Floyd would not have died that very day he died had Derek Chauvin not put him in that compromising position, right? So I don't think this cuts it as enough evidence. When I first saw the news, I thought maybe there was more compelling evidence to say that even in the autopsy report, it showed that this is just incidental. This tumor is just incidental. It just happened to be there, right? That the contributing factor of this tumor was insignificant, right? But even at that, this tumor is a catecholamine releasing tumor, which releases hormones like adrenaline, which is the flight or fright hormone, right? Putting George Floyd in that position is enough to have caused him to have caused that tumor to release a sudden amount of adrenaline that could kill him. So, in a way, the actions of Derek Chauvin led to the death of George Floyd. Combine it with the other factors, as we know, right? So, when you've restrained someone and they are obviously in distress, they're telling you that they're in distress. There was really nothing Floyd could have done at that point in time. He was cuffed, could probably run away, but they still get him anyway. So I'm really, really trying to understand what the point of kneeling on his back for that long a time was. I don't understand what that point is. Now, there were those who thought that this was a racially motivated killing. I really try to stay away from making such speculations because I don't know what's in his head. Probably could be, probably could not. But what we can be able to prove isn't racism. What we can be able to prove is that the actions of Derek Chauvin led to the death of George Floyd. That's what we can prove. That's what we should be looking at. The other parts of, was this racially motivated? Was it a hate crime? Very difficult to prove because you don't know what exactly is going through the head of Derek Chauvin at that point in time. So I think that this just highlights the fact that police people at times act with impunity. They think they can get away with anything. They can do anything and just get away with it, which is wrong, right? Which is very, very wrong. I mean, police should not have the right um to violate the rights of citizens. They shouldn't have the right to violate the rights of citizens. I remember there was a video a while ago where some police officers went to the home of a man. It was a wrong address. Was a wrong address, right? They were knocking in his home. The man did not know that they were police. He came out with a gun and then they fired at him. And then you ask yourself, did the police actually have the right to fire at this man who had not committed a crime, who was in his house, who had the right to bear arms in his house, who had the right to protect his property, who did not know that these people were police? Did they have the right to fire at him? Right? Did they have the right to violate his right of self-defense and in protecting his property that way? I don't think so, right? But these things happen. These things happen all the time, and it just shows that power. They say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I think that police should be held more accountable for their actions. I think they should be more careful the way they deal with people. I know it's a dangerous job. Yes, it's a dangerous job, but it's something that they also signed up for. So it comes with the territory, right? It doesn't mean that because it's a dangerous job, everybody becomes a suspect. You just have to use some sort of maximum force for them. That's not the case. So in this case of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, with this new evidence that he's presented, which I think is weak, I don't think the evidence is going to do anything, right? Just for the fact that even with this evidence, if it is shown that the tumor actually killed George Floyd, you have to know that the actions of Derek Chauvin at that point in time, his intervention with George Floyd at that point in time, actually caused or exacerbated whatever medical conditions he had. Yeah. So while we cannot put the blame 100% on Derek Chauvin, we cannot absolve him of any blame at all as well. It's not possible to say that his actions had nothing whatsoever to do with the death of George Floyd. That's simply not true from the way the things are. So let me look at the comments. Uh, Zachariah said that the rumor I heard, but it was never confirmed, is apparently George Floyd had an affair with Derek Chauvin's wife, but that's speculation. It was never proven. Yeah, I heard that rumor too. I heard that rumor about, sort of a love triangle gone wrong, and all of a sudden, nothing came out of it. Probably it's possible, but nothing came out of it, right? But even if that's possible, how stupid is Derek Chauvin to have done something like that so publicly, right? What was he hoping to achieve by just kneeling on his back for that? Was it meaning to humiliate him? Did he think that kneeling on his back for that long was enough to humiliate him? I don't know, right? And in the full glare of the public, right? So if that's what happened, then it just shows how dumb Chauvin is. It just shows how very, very, very dumb and stupid he is for him to have done something like that because he wanted to get revenge for sort of an affair gone wrong, right? So Zachariah said, the only thing I had an issue with was comparing George Floyd with MLK or Malcolm X. That was an insult. Yeah, that was definitely an insult. George Floyd did not do anything to merit that kind of honor or stature. He did not. This guy wasn't a role model of any sort. He wasn't a stellar figure, right? So as much as I respect his rights to not be killed in any manner, I'm still not going to, essentially make him into a hero of any sort. No, he wasn't anything like Malcolm X. He wasn't. He's not a symbol of any sort of civil rights, whatever. No, he's not. He's just a guy who happened to have been killed by a cop, and there are many other people who have been killed by cops in similar circumstances. Right? There are probably better examples of people whose death should have been the focal point for for this kind of protest, right? But it happened the way it happened, right? So, yeah. And said, yeah, after seeing that article, it's very difficult to prove that the tumor was the cause. The tumor theory seems like a reach. This is like an argument for 0.000. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it seems like a massive reach. It seems like a massive stretch, right? When I first heard that there was new evidence, relating to, I was thinking that there was this groundbreaking evidence that was suppressed, that was covered by, because of the sentiment of the case, because there was a lot of public, there was a lot of public sentiment about it. So I thought that maybe the judiciary or the people just wanted to assuage the feelings of the public, so they just did a trial to convict Derek Chauvin, even though he was innocent and all that. I thought that was what this so-called new evidence was going to, provide, but the evidence, it doesn't stand. So Zachariah said, tumor alone, Derek Chauvin escalated the tumor most likely. Exactly. So whatever medical condition George Floyd had was exacerbated or escalated by the actions of Derek Chauvin, right? Yes, George Floyd had an enlarged heart. He had meth in the system. He had fentanyl in the system. He had atherosclerosis. He had so many other. He had COVID, right? But and he probably would not have lived very long. He probably would not have lived to a ripe old age, given his lifestyle and the medical conditions he had. But he certainly was not going to drop dead that day that he died had Derek Chauvin not intervened, right? Had he not come across Derek Chauvin, had that interaction not taken place, it's not possible that he would have just suddenly dropped dead. Not possible, right? So, as much as justice must be served, as much as I don't want someone who is innocent to pay for a crime that they're not that they did not commit. I don't think that Derek Chauvin is totally innocent in this condition. I think that his actions were reprehensible. I don't think that he, for someone who has been restrained, for you to apply that kind of force, kneeling on his back or his neck for that long, I don't think it was a good thing for him to have done. I wish him all the best in his appeal in trying to get his conviction overturned. If that happens, If the case goes in his favor, if the evidence come out in his favor, then I wish him all the best. I hold no ill will towards him. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that he has a strong case in that regard. I think that the conviction is going to stand. I think he's going to serve his time, and maybe when it comes out in about 20 or 21 years time, he would have a better perspective in life, and he'd know not to abuse the powers that he has been given. So, guys, this is about it for the show. And I think this would be enough for this show. Like, share, subscribe. Please check out my crime fiction novel on Amazon. Good novel. You're going to enjoy it. You can join our Discord. You can also, become a channel member, support this channel financially and all that. So tomorrow, I'm probably going to do another show tomorrow where I'm going to let people call in and we can just talk, have a conversation. But today, just a monologue, 20-30 minutes monologue on me giving my thoughts on this case, on this scenario, on this situation, which I was thinking about, right? So guys, that will be all for this, and I will catch you guys in another live stream. It's bye for now, and happy Thanksgiving.